Hello, good day everyone. My name is Shikina AFC Madresta, your reporter for today. For our topic, it is called Propaganda Movement and La Solidaridad. Have you encountered this word? Yes, we are familiar with this word since we have already encountered this during our high school days. Okay, there are two big events happened during this time. So 1880, sons of the wealthy were sent to Europe to study. Their nationalism and passion for reform blossomed in liberal atmosphere. In 1872, Filipino elites or ilustrado and liberal exiled and arose what came to be known as the propaganda movement. The magazines, poetry, pamphleteering flourished. Jose Rizal is one of the most brilliant figure. He produced two political novels, The Noli Me Tangere in 1887, which is also known as Touch Me Not, and El Filibusterismo in 1891, which is called The Reign of the Greed, which had a wide impact in the Philippines. The movement aimed to create reforms in the Philippines, which was under the Spanish government. The propaganda movement put up its own newspaper called La Solidaridad. The Soli, as the reformists found the code, their official organ, came out once every 2 weeks. So, mo siya. In November 15, 1895, they first issued and published the propaganda movement. But the propaganda movement did not succeed in its pursuit of reforms. The colonial government did not agree to any of its demands, so they failed. What is propaganda movement? Was the first Filipino nationalist movement led by Filipino students in Europe. Filipino elites, upper-class Filipinos, and emigres, liberals excelled in 1872 that was inspired by the proto-nationalist activism of figures such as Jose Burgos and by his execution at the hand of colonial authorities. The movement strove to awaken the sleeping intellect of the Spaniard to the needs of our country and to create a closer, more equal association of the islands and the motherland. So when we say proto-nationalist, it is someone who would want to prep a society for future nationalism. They would try to convince people, as many as possible, that nationalism is the answer to the most or all of society's problem. Emigres, a person who left their own country in order to settle in one country, typically for political representation of Philippines in the Cortes or Spanish parliaments, legalization of Spanish and Filipino equality, creation of public school system independent of the friars, abolition of the forced labor and vandala, forced sale of local products in the government. So that is vandala. Guarantee of basic freedom of speech and association, recognize of human rights, and equal opportunity for Filipino and Spanish to enter government services. Assimilation, the process whereby individual or group of different ethnic heritage are absorbed into the dominant culture of a society. The propaganda movement never asked for Philippine independence because its members believed that once Spanish realized the pitiful state of the country, the Spaniards would implement the changes in Filipino were seeking. The movement targeted the Spanish government and public, but as an elite movement, it failed to engage with the wider Filipino population. The propaganda movement weakened after Rizal's arrest and collapse of the La Liga Filipina. The death of Gomborza, Mariano Gomez, Jose Burgos, and Jacinto Zamora awakened the storm of anger and resentment among the Filipinos. They questioned the Spanish authorities and demand reforms, and martyrdom of the three priests apparently helped to inspire the organization of the propaganda movement, which aimed to seek reforms and inform Spanish of the abuse of its colonial movement. So as we have seen that La Solidaridad was a newspaper and the propaganda movement was the one who created it. So the Comborza, the father, the three priests, Mariano Gomez, Jose Borges, and Jacinto Zamora, their death becomes the stepping stone that awakes the strong feeling, the anger, the resentment, the nationalism of the Filipino.
Good day, I am Anthony Ragas, and this is the continuation of the week number 6 report, which is the propaganda movement and La Solidaridad. So let's start. So what is La Solidaridad? In order to help achieve its goals, the propaganda movement put up its own newspaper called La Solidaridad. The Soli, as the reformists fondly called the official organ, came out once every 2 weeks. The first issue, so print, was published on November 15, 1895. So when the Ilustrados came in Spain, so they realized nga there are a lot of privileges that are not offered or accorded to Filipinos in the Philippines by the Spaniards. So by the way, Ilustrados are the child of wealthy Filipino nga gisent abroad para dito mag-eskwela sa mga dagko nga universities, especially sa Europe. So kaya nakita man nila ang kahimtang sa mga Filipino sa kamot sa mga Spaniards. So they came up in making a movement. So gitawag nila ni nga propaganda movement. Ang propaganda movement is a peaceful crusade for reform, which is organized by the propagandists or Ilustrados led by Dr. Jose Rizal, Graciano Lopez Saina, and Marcelo H. Del Pilar. And one of the breakthrough of propaganda movement is ang La Solidaridad nga newspaper. So, ang La Solidaridad is gigamit nila as their official organ para isiwalat or ipahibalo sa mga Filipino ang mga kasamaan nga ginabuhat sa mga Kastila. So, ang La Solidaridad is nag-release og newspaper once every 2 weeks. And the first issue was published on November 15, 1895. So, the first editor of La Solidaridad is Graciano Lopez Saina, and Marcelo H. Del Pilar took over in October 1889, and Del Pilar managed the Soli until its stopped publication due to lack of funds. Next. So, in 1896, both Del Pilar and Lopez Haina died in Barcelona, worn down by poverty and disappointment. An attempt was made to re-establish the La Liga Filipina, but the national movement had become split between Ilustrados, advocates of reform and peaceful evolution, the compromisarios or compromisers, and plebeian constituency that wanted revolution and national independence. So, sa kasawiang palad, namatay si Graciano Lopez Haina o si Marcelo H. Del Pilar due to poverty and disappointment sa Barcelona, Spain. So, at this time, si Rizal is gi-establish niya ang La Liga Filipina sa Tondo, Maynila. So, ang La Liga Filipina is, ang layunin sa La Liga Filipina is mag-create og mga corporation o scholarship para sa mga Filipino. But, ang La Liga Filipina is nasakpan sa mga Spaniards. So, mao at this time, gipalabay nila si Dr. Jose Rizal sa dapitan. But, ang La Liga Filipina is gipadayon ni Andres Bonifacio o Domingo Franco. But, at the end, pagpasyahan nila nga mag-create og kanya-kanya nga mga grupo. So, si Domingo Franco, gipadayon niya ang La Liga Filipina, ang layunin sa La Liga Filipina, pero ang pangalan na is the Compromisarios or Compromisers. Then si Andres Bonifacio, which is nag-create og grupo nga gitawag nga Katipunan, which is nailayunin nga mo magsimagsik or mag-create og revolution. So, who are the propagandists? The propagandists are largely young men, often mestizos and Creoles, whose families could afford to send them study at Spanish universities in Madrid and Barcelona. So, despite its overall failure, the movement generated a political consciousness that fed into national revolution of 1896 and the struggle for independence that followed. So, mo ang ingon ganiya. So, the most outstanding propagandist was Dr. Jose Rizal, a physician, scholar, scientist, and a writer. Ug siya po nga to ahang national hero. Creoles are ethnic group which originated during the colonial era from racial family, mainly born in colonies or Spanish ancestries or mixed race such as Spanish Criollo or French Criollo and etc. So why the propaganda movement failed? The propaganda movement did not succeed in its pursuit of reform. The colonial government did not agree of any of its demands. Spain itself was undergoing a lot of internal problem all the time, which could explain why the mother country failed to heed the Filipinos' petition. The friars, on the other hand, were at the height of their power and displayed even more arrogance in flaunting their influence. They had neither the time nor the desire to listen the voice of the people. So, moto nag-failed ang layunin sa propaganda movement because wala giagrihan sa Spanish government ang ilahang mga demands. So, but the failure of propaganda movement is wala siya nahimong rason para muundang ang mga Pilipino nga ipaglaban ang kalayaan sa Pilipinas, because through the failure of propaganda movement mas nangisog pa ang mga Filipino nga ipaglaban ato ang karapatan. Umuoto na gi-create ni Andres Bonifacio ang Katipunan, which is dito nag-start ang Philippine Revolution. That's all. Thank you.